podcast. My name is Molly Ruland. I am excited that you are here and tuning in today. I am really excited about my guest today. The point of this podcast is to talk about life in the new normal, being relentless and unstoppable, or at the very least resilient, because these are all things that we need right now. So I'm really excited to introduce my guest because she is someone who has been a bright light for a lot of people during, and post pandemic. I am quite certain. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Raquel Borras to the podcast today. How are you today, Miss Lady?
I'm good. Yay. I feel like there should be like TV show applause.
We'll make it happen. We'll do that in post-production.
Someone told me that. I haven't been watching baseball, but someone said that now with baseball season and there's nobody in the crowds, I guess they're doing like the fake cheering.
Yeah.
Someone told me that when they broadcast it. Sorry, it was just a little side note.
I mean, they're doing what they can right now, right. Like maybe they're going to start putting like cardboard cutouts, right? And like,
right. Photoshop people in there and I don't know.
It'll be like all the bad parties I threw in the 2000s when nobody showed up. I'll be like, hey, I remember this. This is great. Well, I threw parties for like 20 years. I booked bands and stuff, and like you can't all like, it's not a home run every time. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you're like, why am I doing this? This is terrible. No one's here.
Yeah.
And then you just get up and you do it again the next day.
I was going to say, and then you torture yourself the next day by, going through the same thing.
You forget all about it and you do it
again. I know,
again.
it's like having babies. You forget how.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's interesting. So I talk about this kind of a lot about like muscle memory with business and like with personal stuff. I'm like very much affected by what's happened in the past, but with business, like I have no muscle memory for failure. Like if I get something wrong, I just get up and I try it a different way the next day, and I have no feelings about it, right? Like I don't have that.
Yeah.
That
yeah,
instinct.
I've gotten to that point a little bit too, just with what I do. I kind of have to,
100%. So let's talk about your origin story. Actually, let's I know you have been in real estate or in the mortgage business for a minute, but what were you doing before you got into the mortgage business?
I was working for a builder.
That's right.
Yes, and I was doing a bunch of things for the builder too, because that was my first actual corporate job coming out of a divorce, because I was teaching yoga and cycle. And it's like, I need health insurance. I need a salary. It's like reality hits. And I was like, I was a stay-at-home mom before, and I had a husband that, was making enough money for me to not have to work and take care of the kids. But so, I started out as a receptionist. And then they wanted me to do sales, and the sales were on the weekends, and I just couldn't do that because my kids started getting into sports, and being that I was newly divorced, I already had like major mother's guilt. So the worst thing to do is to even miss even more of their lives. So I was like, yeah, no, sorry. So then they had me create their customer service department. That was interesting because first of all you do is deal with people that are angry.
I was going to say,
people only call in to complain. And secondly, let's be honest here. Let's be real. It's all male in the field. So all 100%. The project managers, all the construction managers are all men. So, it'd be kind of interesting on a Friday morning, our production meetings, when I was the only female. So I learned a lot. It was great. Like I really, it was probably the toughest job I've ever had, but it was probably the best because you really do toughen up, and then you learn to deal with people that are mad at you all the time when it's not you, right? So that was another thing too. You realize these are people that are just projecting. They need someone to listen to them. It's not, Raquel, it's not that you're a horrible human being and they're saying these things because of you. And so, I learned a lot about myself. So it was good.
That's really good. That's interesting. I had a job with the Washington Business Journal for a couple of years in my early adult years, and I worked in the circulation sales department, which is basically just selling the newspaper. But 70% of the sales were renewals, and it was all like top CEOs. It was like C-suite people, right? And so, but that's when I learned to be like really clear and concise and fast and audible. Like you have to be loud. Like if somebody's training and they'd pick up the phone and be like, "What?" I'd be like, "Do you want to renew your subscription to the Washington Business Journal?" And they'd be like, "Yes." But how long? 3 years. And then they just start ranting their credit card number, 6, 7, 9. You're like, oh God, but it was like, I knew they wanted it, but I still had to they answered their phone. I had to make it super quick, but it was an invaluable skill set. Like I wouldn't want to ever do that job again.
Yeah.
But But it was a great like learning thing in my early 20s, just the elevator pitch, right? Like if you can't say what you need and what you want, like clearly and audibly to the right person, then like it's never going to happen.
I still have issues with that. Like I'm still trying to figure that out here. I'm going to be 45 in a couple weeks. That's hard for me because I am very much of a background, like long-winded person. My ex-husband is always like, get to the point, Raquel. He's like, you always give like the entire background. I'm like, yeah, but I'm a visual person. So for me, when I talk to someone, I have to like lay everything out. And most people are like, yeah, no, that doesn't works.
Time and place, because I'm the same way with certain things. I'm sure people in my life are like, yes, please shut her down. Yeah. But then when it comes to business, like I can kind of sense when I have that room and when I don't. And I can like read that room really well. And I know how to just like summarize and like get to the point and like make happen what I want to happen.
Right. Yeah.
It's definitely from that job. For sure. So, okay. So you went from that. And I love it. You started as a receptionist because I was in the mortgage business and started as a receptionist as well.
And you got to start somewhere. I'm the type of person of like, hey, you know what? Like you can't just come in and be the CEO. I'm sorry. Like so many people think that it's just, that's how it works. And no, it doesn't. Well, I mean, maybe for some people, but for the rest of us.
Yeah. Well, I think being a receptionist is cool too, because you interact with every single employee. You learn all their different personalities. You see how they treat their clients, how they talk. Like, I think it's invaluable, right? It's like seeing like a case study in progress. And
and then the people that come in, I love it too, because everybody that comes in to see someone, they're sitting there, you get to have a conversation with them. And I've actually met quite a few people doing that. Just because, they were waiting for whoever. And so I strike up a conversation every time there's someone just sitting there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm the same way. I'll make friends in line. Like, don't leave it up to me. But, so you went into the mortgage business. The builders were like, hey, come on. Or the mortgage guys were like, come on over. And you built this like Latin division, which is awesome. Yeah. I think that's super cool. Like making sure that community existed and had a space to be. And then from there you stepped out with your own marketing and branding company, which I really love. So like, how old were you when you realized that you really loved marketing?
I mean, I've always known just growing up that I kind of knew that I had like marketing skills, if you will, or PR. Back in the day, it was more like PR, right? That's what they used to call it, just because I love people, I'm creative. So it just kind of made sense, but I just never took it seriously enough. So in college, I was an art history major because I just love art. And then I was just lucky enough where I tell people all the time, if you have bosses or managers that can, see your strengths and utilize those strengths, it's fantastic, because I didn't really realize what those strengths were until people started seeing them and then putting me in positions. And then that's what happened is this last mortgage company, they're the ones that said, hey, we want you to be our brand manager because you're already visible. You already kind of have your own brand. And I thought, okay, this is interesting. I never would have imagined going that route. And as soon as I did, I found how much I loved it. Like I was just very natural for me in a way. And then, having people ask me to give them advice and then go, sit on panels at conferences. And that's when I realized like, oh crap, I think this is something that I should probably continue to pursue.
Yeah, absolutely.
I loved it.
So how long ago did you form your company?
Mid-January, right before the pandemic.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, I'm like very new to this. People, I don't think people realize like shit went down.
Well, bless your soul, as they say down here in the South, but that's incredible. So I formed Heartcast in October 2018, and I thought that was bad because it was right before the holidays, but you definitely win. Like you win. I mean, that's first of all, I'm sure it has been incredibly stressful. So
yeah, it has, and it hasn't, because it's interesting how, people are talking about pivoting and changing, adapting and evolving. And I've really had to kind of just, I guess the fact that I'm, very empathetic and so I just kind of had to just go with the flow in the sense of like, all right, yes, I have a business and I need income, but at the same time, like I'm not a salesy person and when there's, sensitivity going on, I like to, listen to that. And so I just was like, you know what, I'm just going to help. Like, I'm just going to openly talk about what I do and give tips and advice. And I'm going to try to just be uplifting and positive and just kind of be someone that people look at and think, okay, you know what, maybe this isn't so bad. I don't know, just kind of some kind of positivity. And that's where I went that route and just kind of didn't even talk about my business, to be honest. And if anything, it was a good thing in the sense that I talked about mental health awareness. And so then that kind of propelled me even further into that kind of lane. And now I'm working with a mental health awareness campaign, doing their brand strategy. I don't know. It's just, I never could have imagined how it was going to go. And it's gone much better than I could have ever imagined as well. So I'm very blessed in that way. But I think it's because I honestly just followed my heart and just my gut and just said, okay, Raquel, like, just do what feels right.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you present like a very authentic, like real version of yourself, right? Like I feel like people feel like they know you from watching your videos. You just have a very like real but like welcoming kind of personality. And I think that during the pandemic, it's been really tough for people to have any kind of normalcy, right? And so
Right.
you're still showing up, you're still doing the videos, and it's like, oh, okay, maybe the world isn't ending, you know, maybe
Yeah,
because she's still
maybe.
doing videos, and it really helps. Like you have no idea though, like how much like those things have impact on people's lives. It's really just hard to even measure or calculate that
Yeah,
at all. But
it is difficult. I tell people all the time, like, especially with social media, like you put yourself out there in a way where unless people respond or engage in your content or like it, if you will, you really don't know who's watching it, because it's amazing how many people I get messaging me like, I love your content, thank you, keep it going, but yet they've never liked or commented on my post. So it just goes
right.
to show you there's a lot of people just paying attention to your content, but not, that's it. And unless they say something, I have no idea
You have no
who's out
idea.
there. I have no idea. So I do appreciate when people reach out and tell me that, because yeah, it is nice to know, like, okay, people are paying attention.
Right. You're like, I'm not just yelling into an empty room, because it does feel that
Right?
way sometimes, like especially, LinkedIn is kind of hit or miss. Like if you're really active, it
Yeah.
happens. I know my profile was getting a lot of traffic the week the protests were happening, but I don't think it was good traffic. It's
Yeah.
an interesting bag, right? On Facebook, I have tons of friends and like lots of engagement and all that. And so it's a little easier to track, but
Hmm.
I think it's really important. I think LinkedIn is a good platform. So I'm curious to know, like, how are you managing, like, on the days? I know for me, there's days I'm hyper productive. Sometimes it's in the middle of the night. Sometimes it's whatever, right? I just like,
Yeah.
I'm feeling in the zone. I get stuff done, and when I don't, I don't. And there's definitely days that go by where I just like, I'm just super sad, and I might be able to get my work done, but I'm super sad. And so, like, how are you managing that and still kind of putting that face forward and still creating content?
I use that as content. So for instance, like last Monday,
Mm.
I had a rough weekend and I just woke up and I just was physically and emotionally drained. And my brain and my body were telling me, like, just take it easy today. Like, like, don't even worry about about work, period. So I made a post of me in my PJs, like, because I was in my pajamas like all day. I just kind of took cat naps here and there and maybe got on social media, but that was my post, was like, hey, today I'm going to take a hashtag mental health day. Like, I'm honoring my body, I'm honoring what it's telling me to do, and I said it's not telling me, it's yelling at me
Yeah,
to just like slow down. So I said, you can find me in my PJs today, and I said, just to prove it, here you go. And I did. I took a picture of me on, like, in the bedroom, just like,
I
hey.
saw it
And
actually. Yeah.
but it's amazing how much engagement it got, because it got people talking about, like, yes, it's important to do that, or I do the same thing, or like, good for you, or it's like people don't realize that just that
Yeah.
simple post of just saying that you don't want to be on social media that day is going to propel a lot of social media engagement. It's the irony there,
Absolutely. So tell me, when you're working with clients, like what does that look like? What does your ideal client look like, and what kind of work are you doing with them specifically? Is it, like brand concept? Is it brand design?
It's more brand strategy and content strategy, because especially, most people know me in the mortgage real estate industry, just being that I was in that industry for a good 6 years. So I do get a lot of loan officers and real estate agents and reaching out to me, and with them, a lot of it is, it's so saturated, they just don't know how to stand out,
Mm-hmm.
and they are so busy, And so they just don't have time to be creative or think about how they are going to be different. So it's like me coming in and just getting to know them and be like, hey, I want to hear your story. Why do you do what you do? Or what are your interests? What are your passions? And then build from there and be like, okay, well, this is be a great thing for you to start talking about. Or, a lot of people don't realize that even just their hobbies, like if they are, have some crazy hobby, like start talking about that, because you'd be surprised how many people are going to connect with you because of that hobby. Or if you love to write, like, why don't you write blogs about, or do, content in writing? It doesn't necessarily have to be video. Like, I understand that video is the way to go. And, at some point you kind of do need to get yourself out there, but you don't have to go that route right away. Like, you have to do what feels comfortable. So I'm almost like a therapist, because it's all psychological why people don't get in front of the camera or get on social media. It's that whole, like, I'm going to be judged, and what are people going to think, and I don't look, and it's not perfect, and everyone gets in their head. And so it's me sitting there basically telling them to get out of their head. I mean, that's kind of like what happens, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's a lot of therapy.
No, I can dig it. I do the same, because I'm always pushing my clients towards video, because I'm like, if you're going to do a podcast, you might as well do a video podcast. Like, there's crazy not to.
Yeah.
And they're just like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, are you going to do public speaking? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, so, like, when do these paths like cross? Exactly. Because at some point you're going to have to let go of it, right? And just put yourself out there. I mean,
I know. And I get it's tough. Like, believe me, I'm not sitting here like, gosh, like, I don't get frustrated with people, because I can empathize and be compassionate enough to understand. But at the same time, it's like, you gotta like push them a little bit too, and just be like, just do it.
A little bit. You gotta, you kind of, it's like, the dog in the pool. You just have to kind of let go, or the kid, you just gotta like let go, and then hopefully swim.
And you're like, see, look, you didn't drown. It wasn't that bad.
I mean, sometimes that's what it really boils down to. It's like, I mean, it wasn't so terrible, right? And I think that, I think just a little bit of bravery goes a long way. Like, people see that and they appreciate it, and it inspires them a little bit, even if they don't realize it.
Yeah.
So with starting your business right before the pandemic, like, were you able to manage that financially? Like, that seems really difficult, because it's an expensive venture to start a business. There's a lot of money going out the door.
Luckily, the only reason why I was able to do it when I was is because my dad's sister passed away last year, and she didn't have any children. So we actually inherited some money, myself and my siblings. So that was the money that I used to start the business. I knew that she would want that, because she was very much a career woman and very independent, very driven. And so I know that she's looking down from somewhere and just being like, is proud that I use that money for that, as opposed to going, on a shopping spree
or Cancun or something.
Right. Yeah. Or on a cruise. Like, no, this is like, you're going to help me start my business. And so that was fantastic. So I was lucky enough to have that, but yeah, it only lasts for so long. Let's just say that I'm in a position right now, and I'm fully transparent with people, that even during the pandemic, I was saying like, hey, I'm really not making anything. Like, I don't have much income coming in, but I still was on podcasts. I was still out there, because that's the thing too, is perception, right? Perception right now is that, like, you're everywhere, Raquel, and you're doing this and you're doing that. I'm like, yeah, I am, but it doesn't necessarily translate into into my bank account.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you're in a better position now with your own company, because people can actually hire you. It's a little bit more clear, right? Because people get a little bit confused in how they can be serviced by you, right? Like, even with podcasts, I have to just simplify and say, like, we'll do everything. All you have to do is show up for the interview. And they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense to me, right? And so I have no doubt you'll be successful, and I have no doubt that your aunt is smiling down upon you.
I did go visit her grave yesterday, so I'm sure she was smiling at me. But,
there you go. There you go. But seriously, I have no doubt your business will be successful, because, slow and steady wins the race. And you did all this work, you put all this visibility out there, all this content. And so now you have your own business that's really clear. And I think that I know it'll be successful, because you have that drive in you and all the experience. I feel like, working for a builder, like you said, that's just like a lot of bad news and a lot of stress. I know I was in real estate finance for 13 years. And like, my conversations with the builders were never good. I was like, where's my CFO, man? They're going to lose their EMD. They got 20 grand on the line, and everything they own is in a U-Haul. Like, where's my CFO? Where's my CFO? Right. And so I totally, but invaluable skills in the mortgage industry, and just understanding the importance of deadlines, but understanding that like anything is possible if you ask the right way too. Like I got underwriters to do things that they shouldn't have done, not in
Yeah.
an illegal way, but like,
Well,
you know
no,
what I
you
mean?
can be
Like,
persuasive in a very ethical way.
right. Especially when you know like a family's like $20,000 deposit is on the line, then all of a sudden you can really advocate for people. So I think it's like invaluable skill set to have to come out of that industry.
Yeah.
I really do. And so what I really want to ask you too about is like your content is really good. And what I really love about it is that you always change your background. Right. So no matter where, and I'm like, this woman has an awesome house. First of all, that's what
I
I'm
know
always
I
thinking.
have a colleague of mine. She's like, I need to see your house. She's like, because you have so many cute nooks and crannies.
Seriously, I'm like, is she going to other people's houses to do like how she did? But it's just really good. And I like that you sit on the ground. Like there's from a
Yeah.
production, like content creation standpoint, like, you know, the way that you film them, everything is great. My
Oh,
only wish
thank
for
you.
you is that you'd get like a little lapel mic
Okay.
back to
All
your
right.
phone. So your
Okay.
audio is like
Gotcha.
as
Okay. That's
as
good.
buttery smooth as you are. Because here's the thing, and I'll be totally honest. When I see people like doing selfie videos on LinkedIn, I just like sort of cringe a little, and I can't really say why. And yours don't make me feel that way. I'm always
Oh, well,
happy to
thank
see
you.
them. No, seriously, they're aesthetically pleasing. You have good information. Like you're putting effort into it. Like you're the one person who I'm like, yeah, I want to actually see those. You know, no offense to anybody
Oh,
else doing them,
no,
but
but thank you. I really, wow. Okay.
yeah. And so I'm just curious, is that something that somebody coached you on, or are you just like, is that just yeah, that's what I
No,
figured.
once again, I just follow my heart and it's what I feel in that moment. And I've just always been someone I have a creative mind and it goes 24/7 all day, all day long. And so it's like, I always have a lot of ideas. It's just that's why what I do, I love it because someone will call me and, want to work with me. And as soon as they start talking, I'm automatically like, oh my gosh, it'd be a great idea. Or you should do this or this and this and that. And I just like go crazy. And so it's the same thing with my videos is
Yeah.
I'm always like, ooh, maybe today, if I'm talking about this, it would be great to have this background, or maybe this plant looks really cool. Like, I think about those little things, or the
It
color, like what I'm wearing, it matches like that background. So it looks really cool.
it's no, but it's perfect. It's so good. It's just very aesthetically pleasing, and that's like the name of the game for sure. I mean, you're doing a great job with
Oh,
that. So,
thank you.
and as far as like, creating content or content strategy with other people, like, is that something else that you've learned, or have you had a mentor? Is this just from like experience, like the spaghetti, wall concept, right?
It's experience. It's watching other people. It's emulating other people as well that you admire. I tell people all
Mm,
the time, like, it's look at on your social media, who are you drawn to,
yeah.
right? Who do you gravitate to? Like, those are the people that you should be emulating, and you're still different. Like, just everyone thinks like, oh, but it's going to be the same thing. No, it isn't. You know what I mean? Like, you're still you, so you'll still have a different spin on it. And
Totally. I
so
mean,
that's kind of what I do is I see what I gravitate towards. I gravitate towards people that are positive, that are funny, that don't take themselves seriously, that do bloopers, that are keep it real, that are vulnerable. And so that's why for me it works too. Cause I was like, well, if that's what I like to see, then that's what I'm going to do.
I mean, it makes sense for sure. So, what do you think life is going to look like in this new normal? Like I'm sure you spend a lot of time thinking about like branding and marketing and how that's
Yeah.
changed a lot. How are you able to like serve your clients in that? Because I'm the same way. I talk to somebody, I immediately have ideas. I'm spitballing stuff. I'm like ready
Yeah.
to go. And right now, coming up with ideas for the future can be a little tricky because of the uncertainty, right? Like it's the word of the century right now is
Yeah.
uncertainty. And so it's really hard to plan. And then sometimes you can get caught up in like, what should your marketing look like or what you should be talking about and all that. So are you having those conversations like with your clients or like, what do you think that really looks like moving forward?
Well, I actually was asked to be on a new app that's coming out in September, and this app is called Social Coach, and I'd be a social media coach on there. So I would upload all my content and do kind of like tutorials, and so I'm kind of going that route in the sense that like use that platform for my clients.
Yeah.
Um, Because that's the thing too, is, to be honest, working one-on-one with people, it's hard. It's a lot of time and energy. I give a lot of myself, and so I can only do so many of those clients a month, but I want to be able to help as many people as I can. So I think right now a lot of people just, it's the content. They just don't know what to put out there. Like, they know they need to do it. They don't really want to think about it, because there is so much uncertainty. They just know they need to be on social media. They don't know in what capacity. Right. They just need to know they need to do it. So with this app, it just kind of helps, because I'd be prompting them on what to put up, you know, whether it's an Instagram story, me giving a tutorial on how to do it, or if it's just one day of like, hey, today you're going to focus on engagement, you know, and engaging with other content, little things like that, just to kind of help them out. But in the long run, I'm thinking I'm going to go a different route, in the sense, like, I'll manage clients on that platform, but I really want to speak. I want to really focus on teen suicide, on mental health awareness. Like, the long run, yeah, I just, that's where I want to end up.
That's awesome. I really respect and admire that. It's important to have clarity in your vision and know where you want to head, you know, where you want to end up. I mean, even though we don't always know where we want to end up, but we know where we want to go. And I think that right now we need like mental health awareness and support, and we need normalized therapy. One of my
and
old
it's going to get worse. You know, that's the thing, is like, I think it's all with everything that's happening. We haven't even seen, like, it's going to be years down the road, the impact it's going to have, especially on children, on kids, you know, these kids that are being isolated. They're not on their play groups. They're not with their friends. They're not being socialized. So who's to say how that's going to impact this young generation down the road? So I feel like it's almost like, hey, let's put a hold on, like, let's like do something now. Like, let's not wait. Like, I think that's the problem with mental health, is like, we wait until someone, you know, gets depressed, or we wait till someone does something. It's like, hey, why don't we, you know, from the beginning, start talking about mental health and doing things that are going to help, so that it doesn't get to that point where it's almost too late, right? Where you're kind of like, well, shoot, maybe we should have talked about this 5 years prior, and that person wouldn't have, you know, be in that position that they are right now.
For sure. And especially children, because, you know, aside from the pandemic, school shootings, I never worried about getting killed going to school. That was nothing I ever thought about. Bulletproof book bags. Like, you know, I don't even think, like, I don't know. It seems sort of weird to me. I was just talking to a friend about this, how we don't really talk about it. Like, we acknowledge school shootings. We have the data. We have the stats. We can spout them off. But, like, we're not addressing it, you know? My brother's actually good friends with one of the parents of the Newtown.
Oh, wow.
And after, you know, the daughter was killed, you know, the parents' marriage, I think, fell apart after that. Yeah. And then the guy, he had formed all these like great groups and was doing public speaking, and then he killed himself a couple months ago.
Oh my goodness.
And you know, that was a long time ago, and he was actually working with people on there. So like, I think we're just, as a nation, as a society, as like humans, we're really underestimating like how much trauma like our nation's children, you know, have gone through, and like, that's the future, right? And now it's just like really mess things up for them, those poor guys, you know. We're like, hey, by the way,
and we didn't have and we didn't have social media either. So that's like a whole nother element. And that's another reason why I do what I do on social media. Cause I'm like, okay, if I can kind of walk the walk, in the sense of like, hey, I'm telling people, like, just be you and just be true to yourself. So the only way I can do that is by doing that myself. So that's why when I get in front of the camera, there's plenty of times where I don't have any makeup on. Like, I did a video last week, I hadn't showered and I had no makeup on. I don't care, because at the end of the day, it's not what I look like, it's what I have to say. Exactly. But unfortunately, these young women, they're so focused on what they look like. And because now you have filters on all these apps, you look stunning. I mean, it's interesting, because there's this one woman that I know that's in the industry, and I'm not going to say anything. All I know is that, let's just say, when I met her in person, she had really bad skin. Okay. Right. But from everything I saw on Instagram, it was flawless, like perfect. And then I see her and I think, oh my goodness. And it's not because it was just goes to show you, like, wow, she's been basically putting herself out there in a way that's just not really real. Like, how great would it be if like women saw that she had bad skin and she owned it and she was still doing her videos, right? Like
still confident, still not like,
right.
yeah.
And so it's like, I have a 16-year-old daughter.
Mm.
You know, so for me, it's really important to instill, you know, confidence and self-esteem with her. And luckily she has it. But because I'm like really tough on her about it, you know, like if she says, I look fat, I'm like, excuse you. I don't allow her to say those words around
Good.
me. I'm like, you're not allowed to say that. Like I said, first of all, you're not. Second of all, like, don't even say those things out loud, you know?
And there's worse things than being fat in the world.
Yeah. Or like, oh, this and that. And I'm like, nope,
yeah.
Like those aren't, no, we're positive, like you're beautiful, you're this, you're that, or and so I think that's another issue too, is that whole social media aspect of it. And so that's where that's one thing about the pandemic that I absolutely love, in the sense that you got a lot of celebrities or musicians that couldn't be at concerts. So they were doing their own little acoustic concerts on like Instagram Live or Facebook Live. And a lot of them were just in their living room, no makeup on, hair up in a bun, just like keeping it real. And I feel like, I was like, yes,
we need that.
because you need that. And so that's what I try to do too with what I put out there with my content. You know, yeah, like you said, it's very aesthetic, but it's also, it's not a fake background. Well, it's just more of like it's that visual, right? So there's a difference, right? There's a difference between having everything look perfect and staged, or just, you know, having a good eye and
just caring about
what it's going to look like. So there's definitely a difference there.
Yeah, it's a production quality thing versus like you know, production quality and aesthetic versus like a filter, for sure. So where do these things intersect, right? Like wanting to work with kids and help with that, and like teenagers and suicide awareness, and then and the company name. Please tell everybody the company name and the website.
True to You branding.
True to You branding. So like where do those things intersect? Like who would be your perfect clients? Like if we could really, you know, mastermind this thing, right? Like would it be working with insurance companies maybe, or you know, how do those two things intersect?
You know what, I'm still navigating that right now. Like I'm still trying to figure out how to kind of have it all just marry in a way that works out. I mean, so far I'm working with small business owners too. I'm working now. I've been talking to some people in the school system because of the campaign.
Totally.
It's interesting. I'm definitely like in the thick of it right now, in the thick of this like journey of trying to of seeing where this is all going to pan out, I guess.
Well, I think there's like a couple things, right? I think school systems is good, right? Creating content, like some sort of curriculum that maybe is for teenagers to help them create their branding, because there's lots of kids who like want to have, you know, YouTube channels or whatever, and maybe or maybe it's not like an outward branding thing, but just working with younger kids on their self-esteem and their all the things that we're talking about, but maybe it doesn't translate into a brand or a product, but just like them. But I think also working with parents, like, because happy parents have happier kids, right? And a lot of the parents are walking around with the same stuff, and so somewhere in there I feel like there's an answer. But you know, maybe creating some curriculum, because I do know that there's a, you know, there's a lot of parents who need something to do with their kids, and just like the school curriculum, you know, the thing about the virtuals, a lot of it's just really dropped the quality, and they've kind of had a baseline thing, so it's like not really hard, you know, for a lot of kids, because they have to make sure that like everybody's getting a shot. And so I think a lot of kids are left like wanting more, so maybe creating some sort of a curriculum that you could sell and, you know, teach teenagers just like confidence and all of those aspects of what you do, but just not associated to a company per se.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like I'm one of those people that I'm in a point in my life where I am willing to just kind of like it does drop everything and do something different if that's what it needs to happen, right? Like last year, if you told me last year that I would be doing what I'm doing today, there was no way. I would have been like, what, are you kidding me? So I try not to get stuck and set in something, right? Like I'm trying to be as open-minded, as kind of just like laid back, in the sense of like, hey, today I might be this, but tomorrow some opportunity might come arise, or something might happen where I realize that that's maybe the path that I should be taking. And I'm okay with that. Like I've come to accept that life's about change and evolving and growing and learning, and I'm like super open to it now, where before I was like really closed-minded, and I thought like everything had to be a certain way, and I had everything planned. And that's all out the window. Like, I have such a different mindset, but it's a very liberating mindset too, because
100%.
you don't have these expectations, like these high expectations where you're going to be disappointed. Like, I feel like I can't really be disappointed because like, whatever happens, happens. I don't know. It helps. Let's just say it helps my stress and anxiety levels thinking that way.
No, I think that's I think that's a true sign of success, honestly. I mean, I can relate because I left DC. I like packed up all my stuff. I packed up my studio because I knew we were going to be locked down for a few months. And I was like,
Yeah.
until it clears up, came down to North Carolina to the beach and then just decided to stay down here. And like, I emptied my house of 7 years and I closed my physical. I mean, it was just a ton of change in like a
Yeah.
2 week period. I don't regret any of it. And you just got to keep moving. But I'm living on the ocean, like literally on the ocean, and like I watch like the beach change and I would like the shells and the rocks and like the tide. I mean, sometimes the waves are going left, sometimes they're going right. I mean, it's just fascinating to watch. And so
Yeah.
it just reminds me, like, I was thinking, I watch all these people pick up shells, right? They put them in
Yeah.
their bag, and I'm like, I wonder how many shells are stolen from beaches across America, but I digress.
Right.
But, I look at these stones and I think to myself, like, how far they traveled, right, to get there. And
Mm-hmm.
eventually they just get, bumbled around in the surf and turf, and they turn into sand eventually, which then provides, it's part of the system. And if I'm to pick that up and remove it from the chaos in which it
Yeah.
exists, right, then like I have taken it away from its journey, right? And
Yeah.
and sometimes some shells are like really smooth on one side and then just like crazy, like gnarly on the other side. It's just like there's so many lessons in there, right? And I think there's beauty and tranquility and being like, you know what, I'm just gonna rock with it, and wherever I'm supposed to be
Yeah.
is where I'm gonna be. And I, especially right now, trying to pretend like where that actually is kind of, it's just not real, right?
Yeah. I
Like
don't, and yeah,
nobody knows.
nobody knows. So it's like, why not just kind of like enjoy the ride and kind of look at it as an adventure? Like, yeah,
Oh,
granted,
yeah.
there was a lot of, horrifying stuff happening, but I just choose to look at the good, and I choose to be positive. I choose to kind of, not be so jaded and cynical about life, because we all could be, let's be honest. But then I'll speak to, people that are in their 80s, 90s, and the stuff that they experience is not even close to what we're experiencing. And it
Right.
puts it all in perspective, where I'm like, I can still be outside. I don't have to worry about bombings outside of my door. I can walk to Starbucks.
Totally.
Granted, I have to wear a mask when I go inside, but okay, so be it. Have to wear a mask for the 5 minutes that I'm in grabbing a coffee. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
yes, people are, dying, but I was like, a lot of them are still dying in a hospital bed with, like
Right.
people around them and still trying to save them, as opposed to, and here I'm going to, my dad's Jewish. My grandparents, like, the Holocaust, like, I was like, that's torture. That's crazy. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I just like to put things in perspective, and that helps me to
Yeah.
not go down some kind of crazy, like, oh, life sucks. And, but this is, oh, like, the world's ending. It's like, no, it's a cycle. This
It's a
is just
cycle. My
it's a
mom said to me
cycle.
recently, she said, life is a pendulum. She's like, sometimes it swings really far left and sometimes it swings really far right. And then it usually centers in
Exactly.
the middle. And that gives me a little hope, because sometimes you open up social and within 5 minutes, like your chest is tight and you're just like,
Yeah, it's so easy to go down that road of like, but I just don't want to. So I don't have cable. I don't watch the news. I
good for
only get on
you.
social really to just essentially do my job, right? Put my content out there and then engage with others. But I really make it a point to not to feed into that, because it really does crazy things to your mind.
It's horrible. And your physical health, right? Your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, all this stuff happening with your neuro system that you're not even necessarily acknowledging. Just really bad. Really,
Yeah.
really bad. Well, I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too.
I am excited to see what happens. Oh, I know what I was going to ask
Oh,
you. Tell me about Imperfectly Perfect.
yes. So Imperfectly Perfect. It's a campaign. It started out in Australia, but it's gone global. And Glenn Marsden, who's the founder, unfortunately had a friend of his take his life and left behind a wife and a child. And he was just like, I had no idea. Because once again, social media, everything looked great.
Right.
And so he's like, I need to do something to bring awareness to mental health. Like, and so he's a photographer. So he just started taking pictures of a lot of public figures and celebrities in Australia that he had met, and he just did these raw, beautiful pictures. And so just the media picked it up, and so it gained a lot of traction. Well, now he's managed to kind of cross over into the US. And so we're just trying to do our best to grow the campaign, to have initiatives to do, like what we're saying, like webinars, workshops for schools, essentially. We have a lot that we want to do. It's just, organizing everything in a way that makes sense. But I love being a part of the campaign, and the team is great. It's definitely been something that I never would have thought I would have ended up doing. The whole my story is something that I never spoke about until recently, because I thought it was something that, like, okay, that's a part of my life that is just going to be compartmentalized, like in a corner. And yet it's interesting how that's become now like one of my biggest passions.
For sure.
So that's why I tell people all the time, you just never know. See how it's like it all evolved in a way where that's what I speak about all the time, where before I was ashamed to speak about it.
Yeah, well, living in your truth is a beautiful thing, for sure. And if you tell everybody your dirtiest secrets and they got nothing to blackmail you with, that's that's my motto.
Yeah, right. And there's something to be said about when you're just like, well, you know what, this is me, and people are okay with it, so I guess I'm not that bad.
It's not so bad after all. Yeah, it's like the Jack Handy skit on Saturday Night Live. Do you remember that? He's like, people like me, and sometimes you just got to put stuff in perspective, right? Because it can feel like the whole world, and then it's just really not. And you got to know, like, people value you, and not everybody's going to value you, and that's fine. Not everybody's your people.
Oh, that's okay. Believe me, there's plenty of people that do not like what I have to say, and that's okay. Then just don't follow me, but just don't be mean. Don't tell me. Like, you can think it, just don't be vocal about it, okay?
Just go away. Yeah, exactly. Go find a Yelp review to work out
or go into a field where there's nobody, and then just yell whatever you want to yell at me or say anything that you want to say about me. But like, it's the tree that's falling in the forest. If no one's there, then no one can hear it. Or do they really?
I like that method. I think that's a solid plan for sure. Well, I think you're wonderful, and I got connected to you through Fabi. I'm pretty sure that's how, when I connected with him, because he came and did a podcast in my studio. So then I was connected on LinkedIn, and then that's why I started seeing your posts, and I think that's a good reminder for us to close with too. People definitely don't understand the importance of liking and commenting on other people's posts for visibility. And so maybe if people realize that not only does it boost like the other person's visibility, but it boosts theirs, right? I think there's like a real
I did a post about a company, a starter up app, because it was a caption thing that I was trying to do. And my friend Joe Wilson was like, oh, try this. I'm like, I couldn't figure it out. Well, somehow the CEO, the founder of that app, saw my video. And she went ahead and took that video, captioned it for me, and sent it to me. And I was so impressed that she did that I did a post about her and her app yesterday on LinkedIn, and with the video, she was fully excited. People now know that app, and that because I started, talking about how wonderful it was that she, out of the blue on LinkedIn, did that. And so I tell people, like, hello, the power of this platform, and the power of the fact that people who you have no idea are watching your content are paying attention, because she and I weren't even connected. We weren't even a connection, and she still saw my video.
Well, it's because you're amazing.
Oh, well, thank you. No.
Seriously. I mean, seriously, it's always a nice break. You're scrolling through and things have been really stressful and intense, right? That's a whole other conversation. But like, I've been kind of disappointed with some of the content on LinkedIn. I'm like really taken aback by some of it, honestly. Yeah. So I in particular really appreciate seeing your positivity in your videos and everything that you have to offer. Yeah.
And I'm gonna run over to Best Buy later today and buy myself. Can I get it at Best Buy, one of the mics?
No, you should order it online. Do you have an iPhone?
I do.
Okay, so I'll send you a link. I think it's Behringer maybe, or Rode, and it like connects into your phone, and then it's wireless, and then you just put it on your lapel, and then that way you can just like do your videos the way you normally do.
Yeah, and then I don't have this like little thing.
And then
I'm too cheap to buy AirPods too, and I just don't like how they look.
No, the AirPod quality is actually lower.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah. And I just think it looks kind of funky anyways, to be honest.
Well, because the microphone is like up here. Yeah, I do too. I'm like, what is in your ear? Oh, yeah. But the microphone's up here, which is a really hard place to pick it up, where if it's right here, you know what I mean? The way the sound moves, it's more likely to pick it up. The sound's not going around the side of your head like that. It's going that way. It's the same thing like on LinkedIn when you see people talking on the side of their microphone, it's over here. I'm like, that's not how microphones work. But for you, since you like to move around so much, like a simple little lapel, you just want to get a higher quality one, just because like this, it'll make a huge difference in how it sounds. But it'll be a game changer, and then you can be mobile. You can be walking around. You can
I love that. Thank you. That's gonna be my homework for today.
Yeah, just for your videos. You know what I mean? Like, because they're really, really good. I'm also thinking about teaching like a slight video editing course. So maybe that's something that you and I could partner up with.
I was going to say we can do something together.
Yeah, just specifically on like how to take videos like that and just add like a little bumper and a little bit of music and just like a couple little tweaks so like anybody could film their own videos, like all the people you're coaching how to do this stuff. They could actually do it and edit it a little bit and get it out. Because I think, especially for women, the better we represent ourselves and the better, I mean, we have to, you know, we have to work harder. We have to do better than our male counterparts. And so I think like having really crispy content is a great way to do that.
There you go. So anyone listening, just stay tuned.
Stay tuned for the thing. No, I think it would be great because, you know, I'm sure tons of people look at your videos and they're like, how do I do that? I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to hold the camera. I don't know how to.
Yeah. And it's not as difficult as they think it is. That's why it's so great to be able to like actually show them.
Exactly. It's great. I mean, that's why I started Heartcast. I'm like, I just want to empower people and give people platforms so their voices can be heard. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I will, you gave me all your links and everything. So those are going to be in the description for people to be able to reach you and email you and all the things. So thank you again for
it'll be crickets. It's all good.
No, it'll be great. It'll be great.
No, I'm used to it. Like in the sense of like, like I said, like whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I have like 10,000 followers on my Instagram account. I got like 6 likes on my post. I'm like, what's a girl gotta do? Whatever. I'm not in it for the likes. I'm not doing it.
I know.
You know. But it was really lovely chatting with you. I've been looking forward to this ever since you signed up.
Me too. I love that we actually got to interact.
Exactly. Instead of just like randomly on LinkedIn posts and Messenger and stuff. But thank you so much. And thank you everybody for tuning in today. Excellent conversation. Looking forward to the next one. If you found this content valuable, please share it on LinkedIn and tag both of us so we can like give you all kinds of emojis and props and
lots of love.
Exactly. And we will do the same and follow your content as well. So thank you very much. Go out there, have a great day. And if you're a little short on positivity, head on over to Raquel's LinkedIn, soak up all that content and hit the reset button. I promise you it'll be a better day. So thank you.